Okay, we're going to do one last segment on the Chris Davis idea. And again, this is not a knock on Chris Davis. This is just to try to point out some data, some statistics, along with a video visual that kind of helps people see exactly what combinations have been difficult. So far, we showed you the easy ones, that down and away fastball with sliders that pop up above. Let's take a look at what happens when they don't. This is a fastball combo, and again, if we look up to the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a clock, and the clock starting at 0 at release. 0.133 is roughly a third of the way. 0.20 or so is roughly halfway. And so at this point, they start to split apart the two, but at a third of the way, they're still touching each other. In other words, they're very tough to tell the difference between these two. But one starts to sink and one tends to stay up. In these two boxes against Chris Davis, he's had 1 home run in this box, 0 home runs in this box. Hard hit ball average in the down and away box is 125. Hard hit ball average in the middle up strike zone. And again, this area, this whole thing right here is not really representative of a major league strike zone. It's really more like the area that's right in here. If we take inside the numbers, this is closer to what a major league strike zone would look like, just to kind of give you a visual. But basically, this box and this box, 1 home run between the two of them. And the reason for that is this one's faster than it seems. This one's much slower than it seems. But they both have the same basic visual. They're not perfect, but they're very close. Out of the hand, they look the same, and then one starts to sink at the halfway point. He's got to start his swing about there, and by that time, it's very, very difficult for hitters to make that adjustment. And that's why there's very little production in those two areas. Okay, let's take a look now at a slider and see what happens there. When this combination of pitches happen, and at a third of the way, very tough to tell the difference between those two pitches. They're right on top of each other. At halfway, it actually even gets better. They literally are on top of each other. One of these is a slider, one of these is a fastball that's going to be 95 plus. So you can see how early the fastball hits and how much later the slider hits. In that particular box down and in with slider, he has a 0.000 hard hit ball average. In other words, not one ball hit hard. Even though his batting average is 333 in that box, that means he's hitting balls off the end, off the handle. He's getting some hits, but he's not doing damage. 0 home runs, 0 hard hit balls. Why? Because this visual is extremely good. Very difficult to impossible for any hitter to identify those two pitches. And one of them's faster than the gun says, and the other one is the same as what the gun says, but it's so much slower than what your eyes are telling you. It looks like an inside fastball. So what that would mean is, if we're right on this slider, then that means that we would get a lot of chases when the ball's just out of the zone, like here, here. And what we find is that his chase percentage outside the strike zone on sliders against righties is about 48% of the time. He swings at these type pitches. Okay? And that's because of that visual. And then when it's in the strike zone, he has a very low production. Why? Because of the visual. It's very, very tough to tell the difference. And the speed differential is really great. So 0 home runs, 0 hard hit balls, high chase percentage when you execute it to the point where it's out of the strike zone, and about a 24% swing and miss percentage on that slider. Okay, now let's take a look at one more combo. And this is a curveball that's actually out of the strike zone. This would be a designed pressure pitch. So again, just out of the hand, looks identical. At a third of the way, still really close to identical. And then one ends up a fastball faster than your eyes are telling you, and the other one is a curveball that bounces just about at home plate. His chase percentage on curveballs is extremely high. Again, it's at 43%. Swing and miss 26% of the time. 44% of the curveballs that are thrown to him are thrown in this area down here. When that happens, very little success. Lots of swings and misses. Again, the reason, the visual, very tough. Now, if we couple that same curveball with a fastball away and down, it wouldn't have that same visual. But because of that combination, extremely difficult to hit. So, again, this is not a knock on Chris Davis. This is just any lefty is going to have trouble with pitches that have this kind of visual information. Looks like a strike, looks like a strike, looks like a strike. I start my swing, and now it's impossible to hold up. Because in between there is that slider we saw where he has very little, it's a little bit faster, but it has that same visual. He swings and misses at the curveball that looks like that fastball up. So, once again, we already saw the bad combinations of the home runs that he's hitting. Now we see the combination of the pitches he's not hitting.